Hi everyone, it is Kate here for part 2 of my March wrap-up, and this is the mystery part of my March reading, and I ended up reading a total of 9 mysteries in the month of March, which it did not feel that way at all. And the very first one that I did not quite read, I more skimmed. This is for my real life mystery book club, and we're going through Golden Age authors, and so the authors that are just don't have much character development in their mysteries. They're more puzzle mysteries. I just know I'm not going to enjoy as much. So I just skimmed Enter a Murderer by Ngaio Marsh. This is about a theater group, and there is a murder play that they are putting on, and there is a gun with blanks that during one of the performances one night someone has put real bullets in it and the actor is killed, and so you have to figure out who the killer is. And I will link down below. I did a video where I talked about this, comparing puzzle mysteries versus more character development based mysteries, and so you can hear me talk more about that. But the characters just felt very caricatured, one-dimensional. I was just not impressed at all. I don't think Ngaio Marsh is my mystery style at all. I know for people who like Golden Age mysteries that you'll really appreciate her as an author, but she was not for me. Then the second one, and this I also talked about in that for the character development side of mysteries, is Pardonable Lies. This is the third in the Maisie Dobbs series by Jacqueline Winspear, and this has quickly become one of my most favorite mystery series, and it is set in the period between the wars, and Maisie served as a nurse during World War I, and you get a lot of her backstory in the first one. So then in these other ones, it seems like most of her cases are involving something that happened during World War I, and she's having to investigate. So there are a couple men that had disappeared behind enemy lines during World War I, and Maisie is sent to investigate and see if they really died, or if they didn't, or how they died, kind of those things, figure out the nuances of them, and all the while sort of attempts are being made on her life. So it was very action. I could not believe how action-packed it was. So much happened in such a short span of time. It was so wonderful, and you got so much character development from Maisie. You got to see kind of how she was really still dealing with and coping from all of the horrific things that she saw you know, on the front while she was serving as a nurse during the, you know, the Great War, as they called it then. So it was really interesting and thought-provoking, and I'm loving the character development with Maisie. And there is also a sort of a romantic relationship, but it's very push and pull. You don't know if they're going to end up together, so it's just very interesting and keeps you on your toes. And I definitely recommend the Maisie Dobbs series. So if you want to hear more about that, you can watch that video that I will link down below. Then the third and fourth are ones that I talked about in another discussion video on should protagonist values always align with your own. And that was Deeds of the Disturber by Elizabeth Peters. This is the fifth in the Amelia Peabody series, and it was so much fun to be back with Amelia and her husband Emerson and their just wild and rough and tumble son Ramses, who is around 6 in this book. They go back to England and they end up solving a mystery in London. And it's also nice to see Emerson's brother and his wife Evelyn and just what they're getting up to, and it was a lot of fun also seeing them really work as a team in this one. And of course there's some swoony romantic moments, and I just think Emerson and Amelia really challenge each other and make one another grow, and it's really refreshing to see that. So I was getting a bit bored with the Amelia Peabody series because the plots were beginning to all blur together, books 2, 3, and 4. So it was nice to see them back on, you know, on the home front in this one. And I do know they go back to Egypt in book 6. So I do have my love reignited for this series from this one. I think it was my favorite in the series. So fingers crossed that the next one will just still feel fresh and new, even though it is back in the typical setting of Egypt. And then the other book that I talked about in that discussion video was A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. And this is the first in a really exciting series, the Veronica Speedwell Mysteries. And this is about a young lady, a Victorian young lady who is a lepidopterist. And so she just, it's really neat to see how they put butterflies into this plot, kind of how they, yeah, just how they weaved it really seamlessly into the plot, you know, her studying it, and there's different displays they see at, you know, nice houses and things. I thought that was fun. I think it's neat when you give a sleuth kind of an unusual interest to kind of put in there. So like Egyptology for Amelia Peabody, and then Butterflies for Veronica Speedwell. So Penguin, thank you very much for sending this to me. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to get to book number 2, which came out in the month of January, I think, which is A Perilous Undertaking. And I look forward to the series, and there is like a possibility of a romance in the future, which I always love in a mystery. And it was just a really delightful series, and it was very, very fast-paced. There were some parts with a circus, and one of the other main characters in this was a taxidermist, and then there were just very exciting parts back in England, and it involved some political intrigue. So definitely very unique and a lot more unusual than a lot of the mysteries that I read. So I highly recommend A Curious Beginning. The next one that I read was Not in the Flesh by Ruth Rendell. This is number 21 in the Wexford series. This was really interesting. She's done this in a couple of her other books where a body from a long time ago is found, and he kind of has to, Inspector Wexford and his assistant Burden has to figure out you know, how did the body get there years and years and years ago, and kind of have people give alibis for years and years ago. So it's a really interesting dynamic to have, and I just think Ruth Rendell does it so well. In case you are new to my channel, Ruth Rendell is like my favorite mystery author. I love her so much. And so they find this body, and then of course she always has social commentary going. So an ongoing social issue in this is female circumcision, a practice that's done a lot in, not in England, but maybe immigrants who have traveled there. And so there's a lot of commentary on that and women's rights. There were, as in a lot of Ruth Rendell's, a fair number of references to literature. There is an author who ends up becoming a character, and so I love these so much. These are really great hard-boiled mysteries, and I highly, highly recommend them. I don't have much else to say on this, and I think it's because I just absorb it so much while I'm reading it, and then when I come out, I kind of have to come up for air, and I find I feel them so deeply, I don't always know exactly how to talk about them eloquently. The next one that I read was Agatha Raisin and the Murderous Marriage. This is the 5th in the Agatha Raisin series by MC Beaton, and I can't stop smiling when I talk about the series because it is hysterical. So in this one, there is a wedding that's going to take place, and then, of course, because it's a cozy, there is a murder that happens, and so Agatha and a couple other people end up investigating. So what I really love about these is how funny they are, and there's just so many small town antics, and there's this really old couple, crotchety old couple called the Boggles, and like they're taking tickets at a town dance, and she's just charging people $5 to come in, even though it's like they don't have to be charged to come in, but just because she can, because she's an old grump. So the Boggles always crack me up, and just really fun. And her friendship with Bill Wong, police inspector, is always neat to see how that changes and evolves. So I can't wait to read the next one, which I think is Agatha in Greece. So I do highly recommend this cozy series. You can finish it in a matter of hours, and it's just a nice palate cleanser of a book, the like sitcom watching of reading, and I love it so much. And then the next one, which was a lovely surprise. I was not expecting to enjoy this nearly as much as I did. So thank you, Kate from the Novel Nomad, for selecting this as one of our many Mystery Buddy reads, and that is Girl Waits with Gun by Amy Stewart. This is based on real events that happened in Montclair, yes, Montclair, New Jersey, which is really close to New York City, and there was kind of a corrupt gangster that this woman, Constance Kopp, just decided to go up against just because she's very brave. So Constance and then her two sisters, Fleurette and who is the other sister? Norma is the other sister. And what I loved so much about this was it was very clever writing. The plot was fast-paced. There was so much, I love the sisters' relationships that you see, and you get a lot of background of them prior to this book had started, and they're kind of really struggling to get by. They have a brother who really wants them to come live with them, but they want to be, you know, independent and take care of themselves. And it was just a delight from start to finish, and so fun and so full of humor. And the third one is slated to come out later this year, so I definitely want to get to the second one, so I'll be caught up on the series. But yeah, I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, and I like the quote on the front says, "I loved every page of this smart, romping, hilarious novel," and I second that. So I do really recommend Girl Waits with Gun. Very clever writing, and you can tell Amy Stewart, the author, has such a love for writing, and she just had so much fun while writing this story. So I'm thrilled that it's a series, and I can get to know these sisters even better in the sequential books. The next one that I read was a Armand Gamache, and this, oh my goodness, it was such an emotional roller coaster. How the Light Gets In by Louise Penny. I said on Goodreads, like, the shit hit the fan in this one. I could not believe everything that went down, and I just think Armand Gamache is one of the, like, most noble characters ever written. I wish he was like my uncle, and he's just so wonderful and noble and true and honest and good, and I love him so much. So this is the 9th in the series, and there's been like a huge overarching plot that, you know, there's a stink, and it's just going to have to be dealt with eventually, and it is majorly dealt with in this one. This starts out when a woman who is one of a very famous family of quintuplets, that it was just a really iconic family. She is found dead, and they're not sure if she's murdered, but if it's in a Gamache novel, you can kind of guarantee that, yes, it was murder. So I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I just adore this series so much. It's very literary feeling, and it's a great hard-boiled series if you are into that kind of thing. And then lastly, the final mystery of the month, and a great note to go out on, was A Royal Pain by Rhys Bowen. This is the second in the Her Royal Spyness series about Georgie, whose family has title but has run out of money. So she leaves the Scottish castle that her brother and sister-in-law are living in and heads to London and starts her own anonymous cleaning service. So she does light cleaning for people, and they don't know that she has title, otherwise they would feel very weird and uncomfortable about hiring her. And in this one, the Queen really does not want Mrs. Simpson to marry the Duke of Windsor, which, for those of us who know history, we know that's kind of a losing battle for her. But anyhow, she doesn't want him to marry Mrs. Simpson, because Mrs. Simpson is married to someone else. So she gets Georgie to host a princess from Bavaria, and she wants to kind of have this princess be a distraction to the Duke of Windsor, and she has Georgie host her. And while they are at a party, there is a guy who just all of a sudden falls off a balcony, and the police think it is very suspicious. So then, of course, the Queen enlists Georgie to help her investigate, and it's so much fun. Once again, as in most cozies, there is some romance in this, which is super fun. A very mysterious character. And I did this, as I do most of my mysteries, as a buddy read with Kate from the novel Nomad, and I highly recommend this. So those are all of the mysteries that I read in the month of March. It really did not feel like I read that many, but apparently I did. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all of those mysteries, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye, guys.